Crusader Kings is the kind of game where you can really do anything. You can conquer the world as whatever nation you'd like and mold it in your image, create your own religion with tenets from ritual cannibalism to keeping the skulls of your enemies as little souvenirs, murder your foes or just simply try to sleep with their wives, or even just befriend the Pope and play board games with him. It's the ultimate historical sandbox, but how do most people choose to play it? By marrying their own family members. But listen, it's meta! If you're trying to create the ultimate member of your dynasty, you don't want to worry about inheritance, or you're just trying to be historically accurate, it makes sense. Plus, do you really think there would be a medieval strategy game that didn't include this as a mechanic, or have a community that runs with it the way they do? So much so that there is an entire speedrun category for it on speedrun.com? Allow me to introduce you to Inbred Percent, the speedrun where the goal is to have a child with the inbred trait as quickly as possible. The only rules are you can't create a character with over 400 customization points, can't give yourself the inbred trait to start, and can't use any other mods. As you can see, it's not a very highly contested category, perhaps because nobody wants to dethrone the world champion, Big Willie Haver 420, except for me. Just kidding. I watched the run, and the meta here is basically to create a girl with no traits other than fertility and beauty, and marry her to a pre-existing inbred character already on the map, and just kinda hope she has a kid within a year of marriage. Not exactly enough material for a YouTube video. Instead, what I'm gonna be doing is starting from scratch, pulling myself up by my bootstraps, and working for that inbred trait like God intended. I hope you enjoy the video, and if you know me in real life, maybe just sit this one out. When it came time to formulating my strategy, it was clear that I would need to, obviously, create my own custom character in the same spirit as Mr. Willie Havers, though instead of just making her fertile and beautiful and whatnot, I also wanted to give her a religion that was okay with marrying your own family members. I don't know if you know this, but despite the game's reputation, there are actually some pretty heavy modifiers on seduction schemes against your own family in Crusader Kings, and a lot of people will kind of freak out when their uncle starts hitting on them, which is not exactly the meta for a speedrun. So I consulted a few Reddit threads and added a few search queries to my search history that I sincerely hope nobody is tracking, and decided I'd either make a Massalian character or an Adamite character. At this point, if you've seen any of my recent Crusader Kings videos, there's a pretty good chance you're familiar with Adamitism. It's the religion that recaptures Adam and Eve's primal innocence by living in a state of complete lawlessness, and that means nudity, which honestly I don't really want to do as a YouTuber in an already questionable video, so that leaves Massalianism, in which adherents believe that the essence of God can be perceived through the carnal senses. They reject traditional Christian sacraments and instead seek to experience God directly through less conventional means of worship, which of course means marrying your own brother. I mean marrying close of kin to emulate the sacred unions of the first beings in creation. Lustful is a virtue here, chastity is a sin, and yeah, we picked this one. The question then became, how do I avoid being persecuted for my very normal and chill religious beliefs? Iceland was the natural answer here to me. An island in the corner of the map, not beholden to any lieges or empires or anything, and small enough that I hopefully don't have too many Icelandic viewers who are going to comment below mad at me for defiling their home country with what follows. So I picked it in the year 1067 and got to work creating my perfect Massalian girl. I started with her personality, and for this one we'll be taking a page from the world champion himself and making her only personality trait lustful. This is a speedrun. We don't have time for things like dimensional characters. Go to my other videos for that. I made Krampus a fucking poet. We also made her beautiful and fecund to really maximize our fertility, since for some reason beauty correlates to fertility here in addition to attraction opinion. And since I had some leftover customization points, I made her a seducer and gave her the 3-star education. This got me to 399 points, which made me feel like such a cool and accomplished speedrunner, even though it was a complete accident. Now it was time for me to decide her appearance. I did have an idea about the kind of girl I wanted to make, but I randomized it a few times, and after saying no to about 5 different beautiful white girls who all vaguely looked like Taylor Swift, I settled on this one. Now, seeing as we live in Iceland, I knew I immediately wanted to make her pretty pale and her hair as light as possible, and I also thought if we're gonna be dipping into the same gene pool this whole run, we might as well make it interesting. So I tried to give her like purplish eyes, real Alexandria's Genesis type shit, but I settled on this really light blue. This is the part of any custom character Crusader Kings run where I get distracted by all the hairstyles and click on each of them approximately 5 times. I settled on this big loose braid though because it really says mother of inbred kids to me, and I decided her features were kind of lacking in contrast too, so I made her eyebrows pretty pronounced. Honestly, this was just really fun for me. I was drawn to Crusader Kings initially because of its character creator, and I was reminded here how robust it is for what's literally a Paradox map game. Like, the guys who made Hearts of Iron 4 also made this. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, here's how she turned out. For the house crest, I decided I'd break the established traditions of heraldry by just putting my family tree straight up on my banner. And so, without any more ado, I would like you all to meet Daniela Gary. The name just came to me. The Duchess of the Jarldom of Iceland, an 18-year-old girl who has no personality other than lust. Things are going to go great. Right off the bat, I knew I had to find her a husband. Nope, just kidding. Right off the bat, I changed her clothes into something way cooler. Then, I found a husband, the 33-year-old Prince Donald the Fair of Scotland. As we've established, beauty directly correlates to fertility for some reason, so in addition to giving us an alliance with Scotland, which at this point I incorrectly assume I'm not going to need, he should be able to help us produce a bunch of kids that we can slam together like Barbie dolls once a few decades pass. For lifestyle, I think it's pretty obvious what I'm picking. Stewardship, so I can really focus on running my realm efficiently and taxing my residents fairly. Just kidding, got you. If I ever say that in earnest, you have my permission to call the police. We're picking intrigue and going down the temptation lifestyle. Pretty much immediately my character got pregnant and had a daughter. Like her mommy, she's beautiful and fecund, which is just great. You love to see the traits that you picked specifically to boost your chances at incest be passed down to your kids. This part of the game I was expecting to just go by real fast while I had a bunch of kids and minded my business. Unfortunately, having only one personality trait, horniness, meant that people kept trying to fucking sleep with me. I slept with this one for a chance to find out a secret about a vassal, and discovered in the process that A, I have one vassal, and B, he's a fucking cannibal, which is just awesome. Glad to see I'm not the only freak on this island. Anyway, Daniela got pregnant again, like, pretty fast, and thankfully the baby was still beautiful Donald's, or whatever his name was, and he wanted to name it after his own brother, which, given the context of the rest of the video, is pretty funny, and of course I said yes. Sorry, Don. Seeing as this one was a son, and my character is a woman, I decided he would be getting some special attention, my daughter would not, so I started to educate him in the art of intrigue and made him my ward to really boost my chances at molding him into the model candidate. While I was doing this, I was notified once again that my seducer character had done what she does best and jumped her bishop in the hallway, only to be caught by her steward. Normally I would be all over the chance to collect lovers like Pokemon, but we're really trying to keep it in the family today, so sorry boys. I did get a nickname here, which was very nice, thank you, and then was told that my daughter lost her first tooth, which I could then keep as an artifact in exchange for +10 child opinion. Yeah, we're gonna take that, don't worry about it. We had another son and got right to work educating and mentoring him for reasons that aren't sinister and weird at all, then had another son and got the mothered many children trait. Yep, that's right, Daniela Gary, mother of children. I'm gonna be honest, this part of the game honestly wasn't that interesting. I wasn't conquering or scheming or anything. I was just having kids on speed 5 and maybe getting a little too close to my sons. So to break up the monotony, Crusader Kings decided to tell me about a bunch of other Masalians in Wuluhai, the literal middle of Asia. I have no idea if this is just an insane coincidence or if this is programmed in if you start as a fringe religion, but either way, welcome in my new ungood brothers. Well, not brothers, because we're not gonna be sleeping together. I had another son, got sent nudes, and then received word that the Kingdom of Norway had declared war on me. This was just for one of my chiefdoms, but still, I was not prepared to fend off an invasion from the Norse after doing fuck all for 9 years. I called in my allies of Scotland and spent my 500-ish or so dollars on mercenaries, but I still knew in my heart of hearts that there was really no getting out of this one. But I didn't want to give up entirely. I did have one daughter who I married to this Irish Earl guy for another alliance, and then immediately called him to war, which is something that really annoys me when NPCs do it, but I am nothing if not a hypocrite. Things on the front were not going well, but thankfully one of my allies was in fact sending me some troops, which I honestly did not think would happen. Unfortunately, the boat ride up to Iceland must have been exhausting, because once they landed, they just sort of sat there for a while the Norse ravaged the west of Iceland, and then just sort of marched back and forth between two baronies for a while. I finally got them to join me in unsieging something, but then my war score was down to -100%, and I lost half my land in like a matter of 60 seconds. So to protect against future invasions going forward, I again set out looking for alliances with my daughter because I think the Irish Earl guy died somehow, and I saw that the King of England, William the Red, was looking for a wife, and for some reason was going to accept a strange Masalian girl from Iceland. Fine, awesome, we are now allied with the Kingdom of England, should be smooth sailing from here, I hope. We had another son, that's 6 kids for those keeping track, and our daughter came of age, meaning it was time for her to become the Queen of England. Soon after, her brother Malcolm also came of age. Now, unfortunately, something must have gone terribly wrong, because in addition to being fickle and deceitful, he ended up as chaste of all things. But that's fine, it was time to get down to business, and I had been stacking attraction modifiers like Jenga blocks. It does take a few years to seduce a kid in Crusader Kings, which is a cool and fun sentence I have now both typed into Google Docs and said aloud, since this game says they cannot see you as anything but family for a bit. Weird, I thought in this religion that was a turn on. Anyway, while we were waiting, the other kid, Ketelmunder, also came of age, and this one was lustful. But before I could make anything happen, the game told me the Pope had learned what a crusade was and was ready to crusade some kings 3. Now, as a heathen, this was not great news, but hopefully he would ignore the far northern island who wasn't hurting anyone and was minding its own business. We had another daughter, and such ends the healthy breeding part of this video because my husband, handsome Donnie, died in his sleep at age 56. This sucks because it means I can't make more kids with the same set of genes, but it is good for the purposes of moving the narrative forward since it now opens up my husband's slot. And, well, someone's finally ready to be seduced. After a bit of dancing, that's not a euphemism, don't worry, I mean look at them literally breaking it down here, our seduction scheme was a success. Strap in everyone, it only gets worse from here. In true speedrun fashion, this first go at it did indeed produce a child, which the game said was out of wedlock. Not true, because I then realized this religion did not just permit incestuous relationships, but incestuous marriages. And so welcome new High Chief of Iceland, my son Malcolm, and then welcome my new daughter, granddaughter, and sister-in-law, who is unfortunately not inbred, but rather beautiful and fecund like her mom, and grandma, and sister-in-law. Now, unfortunately, we didn't have time to revel in our progress because Norway was back with nearly 10,000 soldiers to finish what they started and take the other half of Iceland. I had been saving up money by virtue of doing nothing but debauchery on speed 5, and I did have the Kingdom of England on my side, but I'll tell you right now that it wasn't enough, especially when he called in the King of fucking Poland to help out for some reason. Now, my allies did show up, but when things were going bad, they left me, and yeah, I pretty much got steamrolled immediately. There was just no way I was going to win this. In the middle of all of this, we did at least get a Dynasty Legacy perk, and I picked bounteous loins for a fertility boost and an attraction opinion modifier. But now we're landless. Our court turned into a wandering band of adventurers the game named the quote, Norwegian Harbingers. What sucks too is that the war and all those mercenaries I bought in a futile attempt to defend my little chiefdom drained all my money, so we really are starting in dire straits here. But I wasn't going to end the run here. There's no rule that says you have to be a landed ruler to get the inbred trait. And so with $13, 5 followers, a son/husband, and a daughter/sister-in-law, we moved our camp down from Iceland to the Isle of Skye and got right back down to business. And you know what? This entire time, I was thinking that things were too simple. And so as a bonus challenge, I decided I wouldn't end the run until I got a Gary back on the throne. And wouldn't it be funny if that Gary happened to also have a funny little inbred trait? Now, remember when I said about 30 seconds ago that I had $13? I lied. One of my sons was still in prison, so I spent the last of my money getting him back. Unfortunately, Vigfus, the Prince of Fashion, was still locked up in fucking Poland, and I was out of money, so he was just going to have to chill there for a bit. Now here, I think I made a bit of an error, because I decided to seduce the other son that I had. In hindsight, I should have just kept faithful to my son and kept producing more kids/grandkids with him. I don't know. Anywho, the seduction scheme on son 2 went swimmingly, and pretty quickly Daniela was pregnant again with his kid. We also started a contract. This is the main facet of wandering gameplay, in which you move from place to place, taking odd jobs to make money, prestige, earn food, and so on, and your success depends on your personal traits and also those of your entourage. This contract that we took was to protect the innocent, a prowess challenge, and seeing as I was a nearly 50-year-old pregnant woman, we failed this and the innocent was in fact murdered. Now for some reason here, son 2 decided to make our relationship public. I have no idea why he did that, but this at least gives me a roleplay reason for why I decided to break up with him. To make it up to Malcolm, that's son 1, I decided we should really lock in and see if we could pop out one more baby, even though at this point I think Daniela was too old. We started romancing him with the hopes of him becoming our soulmate. This was interrupted by my other son saying he had a crush on some other random wandering peasant, which is not allowed. In this house we only marry each other, and the birth of Gregorius, my son, grandson, and brother-in-law. I did legitimize him because, I mean, everybody already knows who his dad was, and like either way you shake it, his parents do both belong to House Gary. And as we all know, House Gary is the best. That is, until the mother of children, Daniela, got one of those events that pretty much signifies you're going to start coughing in 24 hours. They're very ominous. Let me read this one aloud for you. Lately, I am beset by the most horrid migraines. They tear at my mind and claw at my body, sending jagged shards of agony rebounding through my skull. With time, each one does pass, but never swiftly enough for my liking. And then the only option I have gains me 40 stress, asks the question, these infernal headaches, will they never cease? And responds in the tooltip with, they will, ... Probably. So yeah, ominous. Poor Daniela. Now, despite my best attempt at making a parody on the Targaryens with these characters, that is what I'm doing if you're wondering where the hell Gary came from, they are not in fact fireproof, and a fire broke out in camp. So even though we got invited to the King of Scotland's coronation for some reason, we are showing up bloodied and bruised and may look like that for the duration of Daniela's life. Poor Daniela. I decided that this would be a good chance to try and make an alliance with a powerful dude, and much to my surprise, this worked. Now, I don't know what it means as an adventurer camp of like 6 beautiful but incestuous people to be allied with the kingdom, but I take what I could get here in Iron Man mode, man. And remember how I said I was romancing my son husband? Right, that failed somehow. I guess he only wants to smash. Weird, but that's just how it goes, I guess, even with your own flesh and blood. Maybe it's because I was in debt and had no prestige and no hoes and no contracts I thought I could reasonably complete. So to fix this, I moved our camp down to Wales and hoped that some intricate contracts could populate, since those were about the only ones I felt comfortable trying to complete. Once there, I assessed what I had to work with within the Gary dynasty. It wasn't much, but at least we could get going with some matchmaking to hopefully set the stage well for whoever takes over after Daniela dies. So I betrothed my daughter, granddaughter, and sister-in-law, the progeny of me and my son, to my other son, Hjalmar. It would be some time before anything happened there, but at least we had it set in motion. Their kids had an 11.2% chance of being inbred. Kettlemunder the Trickster got Thordis, his sister, with their kids having a 15% chance of being inbred. For the next bit of the game, I basically was waiting for time to pass and slowly but surely building up my Wanderer camp by recruiting new people, completing contracts, and moving around the British Isles to try and increase all those numbers in the top right while my kids aged up. Thordis and Kettlemunder did get married, and then so did Bergthora and Hjalmar. Thordis was the first to have a kid, but she was just beautiful, not inbred. Not to be outdone, Bergthora had a kid, my grandson and great-grandson, who was both handsome and fecund. Thordis then had another kid, and it's now that you really start to see the byproducts of the nature of this challenge, because while he might be beautiful, he's also a little hunchbacked. Welcome to the world, Scarpidden. Before long, little Scarpidden was not the only one having a bad go at it, because that event from before came back to haunt us. We were a prisoner in our own body, infirm and basically waiting to die. Our husband/son died of stress after putting on a new sick outfit, and then sure enough, after we completed a few more contracts, we followed after. Rest in peace, Daniela, you sick fuck, and hello, Thordis. Honestly, at this point, I felt like we would be getting the inbred trait any second now, so it was time to lock in on my other goal, to become landed again and put my beautiful inbred Garys on the throne. To do this, I had 3 options. To purchase land from an existing ruler and become their vassal, to ask for a landed ruler sponsorship in invading land on behalf of one of my claims, or to scheme to seize the realm entirely. All 3 of these options require a pretty decent amount of prestige that is hard to come by as an adventurer, a good relationship with the ruler, and, respectively, a ton of gold or pretty good intrigue. I did still have claims on Iceland, but honestly, the easiest path was probably going to be to purchase land, which still needed level 2 prestige, $800, and, most likely, a strong hook on ruler, because most of the rulers, in fact, hated us for not being part of their culture and for following our fucked up sex religion. So, it was time to get down to business. To signify the beginning of a new era, I changed the adventurer's band name from the Norwegian Harbingers to the much more fun Gary Guys. We're the Gary Guys. Of course we marry our brothers. And started seducing our husband/brother to try and get some more fucked up kids, which was an almost immediate success. Why do we do this? Right away, I started a romance scheme too to see if I could lock him in as a soulmate, and that was unfortunately a slam dunk as well. This produced a pretty normal son though, literally just handsome. Boring. My prestige was climbing though, thanks to the contracts I was picking up, and being an adventurer is actually pretty profitable, so our money was getting up too. Now, since I had inherited my mom's claims on Iceland, I had the camp option to become legitimists, which I selected, unlocking the request legitimist support interaction on kings and queens. Remember our old friend, the King of Scotland? I headed to him first, only to see that he wouldn't accept since we had a claim on the Kingdom of Scotland. Full disclosure here, I have absolutely no idea how this happened, but it's annoying because I don't even want the Kingdom of Scotland. I want to try and get Iceland back, and now the King of Scotland isn't going to help me because he's worried I might try and claim his land too. Our second best bet was going to be the King of Wales, a giant fornicator known as the Holy. And so we packed up our camp and moved back to Wales to talk to him and start improving his opinion of us. For some reason, I decided the best way to do this would be to seduce him. I have no idea why I didn't start with sending him a gift or even trying to sway him, because unfortunately this scheme, which already had a pretty low success chance, got discovered quickly and was a complete and utter failure all around, and hurt me even more by decreasing his opinion of me. Really just a blunder all around by me. I mean, Thordis. Definitely Thordis' fault. Speaking of stupid decisions, I then decided to take a contract to hunt criminals. Well, we hunted her, and when I encountered her, I dueled her. I thought it would be chill since I had 18 prowess and she was a nearly 50-year-old woman with 10 prowess, but it was not chill. She fucking killed Thordis, and with her, all of those claims. So when we took over as her heir, Daniela II, who at this point is 15, we can't even become legitimists again and have to resort back to one of those other methods of getting land. Sick. I'm so glad I picked the dual option instead of literally any of the other ones. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. Our new heir, Daniela, did not have a husband, so I betrothed her to our old pal Skarpedin, her hunchback brother. Their kids had a 27% chance of being inbred. In order to purchase land, you need to at least be distinguished. So we were back on the prestige farming grind. I was doing contracts, moving around, enjoying adventurer gameplay, and waiting for my brother to marry me when I got this event. Now at first, I was just excited to see a horse. I love Crusader Kings 3 horse events. However, very quickly, I realized what this event was and what fate will befall the poor Daniela II over here. Like all who lead, it is expected of me that I be able to ride a horse, both often and well. I could hardly manage my camp if I didn't, after all. Today's errand is a trivial task in rural Trolley, something my entourage and I are best able to resolve quickly and without warning. My steed bucks, spooked by some small animal on the trail. I'm almost thrown hard, only wresting control back at the last moment. The only option I have here is, "Whoa there, girl, calm down," which reads, "This could have been nasty." I know foreshadowing when I see it, and I know that a similar event is going to pop up in a few years that might just kill me. So I really had to lock in. I married my brother, had a mental breakdown, and reached the correct level of prestige by performing in a bunch of plays. I finally had the option to try and purchase land, but the King of Wales, even though he liked me, would not make me an earl, even if I offered gold, a hook, and increased vassal obligations. Massalianism was not Catholicism. I didn't speak his language, and I wasn't of his culture. I wasn't going to convert my religion, at least not before having an inbred kid, and so what I really needed was a strong hook on him. I did get really lucky and immediately find out a secret about him from an event, but for some reason the secret immediately got exposed and it said I did it, which I did not. This was not only incredibly annoying because it would have been a strong hook, but also because it made him obviously dislike me. Honestly, I still have no idea how that happened, but whatever. That's just how it goes. We did have our first son, and he's a real winner, club-footed, hunchbacked, and yet still handsome. And after seducing my beloved brother husband, we had another kid, and you can go ahead and stop your first set of clocks now because this one was in fact inbred. Only took about 61 in-game years, which is 60 more than Mr. Willie Haver's world record. Bang. But our work was not done yet. I wanted to be landed. I wanted to put little Skarpedin and his hunchbacked, inbred, comely self on a throne. I wanted to bring the Garys back to their former glory. So naturally, when I had another kid, a beautiful inbred hunchbacked girl, I betrothed her immediately to her other inbred brother. I was thinking maybe I could get the pure-blooded trait out of this somehow, but I don't know how that one works. Anyway, remember when our horse tried to kill us? It happened again, and this time it was indeed successful, which was a 60% chance. Rest in peace, Daniela II, and welcome Skarpedin, my 13-year-old inbred hunchback engaged to his sister. Will he be the one to bring the Gary guys back into international acclaim? Certainly not now. Bro has no prestige, no piety, and no claims. So it was time to go back on that grind and build up our prestige like our mom/sister/aunt before us, acting in a bunch of plays and trying to just befriend as many rulers as we possibly could. Off to a bad start though when we turned 16 and got the 1-star stewardship lifestyle. That's fine, our stats could honestly be way worse, all things considered. They were at least good enough for us to get invited to the King of Wales coronation for some reason, where we offered him our support and skyrocketed his opinion of us, somehow befriended the King of England, and got a ton of prestige. It was honestly just a really great event all around, so I'm glad I went. No idea how I got invited though. Since the King of England was now our friend, I figured it would be easiest to purchase land in his realm. To really help my chances, I started to fabricate a hook on him, a scheme with a pretty low success chance that I knew would take a while. The King of Wales sent me some poetry, I married my sister, got invited to a hunt and went, and even though it was unsuccessful, it still gave me enough prestige that I would now be able to purchase land once I had a king who liked me enough. While I was fabricating a hook on the King of England, I was also trying to get the King of Wales to like me as well. And it worked. He sent me poetry like 3 different times. He liked me so much that even though I'm a heathen who doesn't speak his language or belong to his culture, he was pretty close to selling me some land. I did start learning his language, had a daughter who was somehow not inbred but was nevertheless hunchbacked, and then got an event where one of my followers overheard a secret at a tavern. A secret about the King of Wales. And I guess, like his father before him, he too was a witch. Thankfully, this time around, the secret did not auto-expose, meaning I got a strong hook on him and was able to coerce him into selling me land. No more poetry for me, but look who's an earl now, motherfucker. That's right, Lord Skarpedin Daniela, son of Perfed Luwad. It's not in Iceland, we're inbred, and our family has been riddled with misfortune, but we never compromised on what was most important to us, marrying and fucking our siblings and producing the most fucked up children possible in the name of Massalianism. And I think that's beautiful. Thank you very much for watching this video. I know this was a different kind of Crusader Kings video than usual, but I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. Thank you to my channel members whose names are on the screen now, which is in fact an explicit endorsement of everything I've said and done in this video. If you want to be a channel member, you can head to the description where you can also find my Twitch, Discord, and my Twitter. I'm all over the place, so come say hi somewhere. And that's all for now. Don't marry your siblings.